What are some of the pubs that you really revere in terms of like just who kind of echo your principles?
I come from a Dublin culture.
Right.
I was actually in Dublin a couple of months ago,
right,
with Charlie and Ash, and just that feeling of homeliness, that feeling of belonging,
yes,
that feeling of timelessness that you get in some of those old pubs in central London, in central Dublin, is just beyond, and that comes from culture, and it comes from knowing what they're doing, and a sense of looking after that timeless arc of what they are. And there are a good few in London too. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to be negative about pubs in general, but a lot of pubs that are run by chains don't have that, and they don't look after it as well as they should. There are great exceptions, like my favourite pub where we've had a pint before, Norman's Coach and Horses. Ali there really looks after that in terms of it feeling like it should. Making places feel like they should is
on that note,
an art.
So I know we've talked about gratuitous perversity, so sort of doing random things that don't really make sense. The French house only do half pints.
Yeah.
What's the thinking with that? Have you been to the French house?
Yes, of course. Yeah. I used to work in Soho Square. Yeah.
Like, what's there? Is there like a? Is there
I love the French house, and I love Leslie. Of course, the French house goes back a really long way. It used to be called the York Minster.
Yeah.
And it became the French house after World War II, because it had the association with the French resistance, and de Gaulle actually had meetings upstairs and all sorts of...
Yes.
The history is absolutely fabulous. But the Berlamoe family ran it, and Gaston was still there up until about 25 years ago, 30 years ago.
Got it.
After the war...
Who are the Berlamoe family?
That was the landlords who lived upstairs.
Okay.
So they were French, were they?
They were French, yes.
Yeah.
I believe. They may have been Belgian, but I'm pretty sure they were French. And then they passed on to Leslie, follow Leslie over there. Yep. She's wonderful. She's been there for 31 years, I believe.
Amazing.
But the reason why they do halves is because when the demobbed English soldiers came back after the war, they were causing a little bit of trouble around Soho now and again, and they always wanted pints. And Gaston wanted to look after the French and the Belgians and the artists and people like that. So
it was who you kept out.
He just decided to do halves because he didn't want to have rabble in.
Yes.
And it worked perfectly, and it became habitual, and it's part of what the business is, and it's part of its DNA, and it gives it a real sense of difference, everybody loves it, and it can only be done there, and it's a great example of something that can't be copied or rolled out because it belongs in that place. And Leslie's a great custodian of that terrousness.
A full pint, right? Like, when you're abroad, a smaller pint or I don't know what they call it, begins with a C. I was just having them in Spain.
Canya.
Yeah. That's the perfect.
Or in Portugal, those tiny little.
Oh, I don't understand why they don't pour it to the top though. When you get a pint, they just fucking go like that.
Yeah.
And it's never pulled to the top. It starts to wind me up.
Well, there's a thing called a schooner in Australia, which is 2/3 of a pint.
Well, the theory is because it warms up too quick.
Yes.
Because the place is so hot.
Yeah. I see. Because in Australia, the schooner, which I think is 2/3 of a pint,
it's around that, but I believe it changes from state to state in Australia as well. So you never know how much.
It's not a bad idea, actually, as an alternative, as a halfway house between a half and a pint.
Yeah, but we're creatures of habit, aren't we?
Yeah.
And having a pint is a habitual thing, and having it in the right glass is a thing of habit.
Yes.
And people who like to drink pints like to drink pints. Of course, when they go on holiday and they're in Portugal or northern Spain,
when in Rome,
or exactly. But you come to an English pub where the atmosphere is dark and wooden and beautiful, and you can hide, and it's got all the panels and the different features and fixtures. You wouldn't generally feel that it was right to drink a tiny beer, unless, of course, you're in the French house.
Yeah, but that's what I'm trying to. That's the genius of the French house. Do you know what I mean? It's because when you're there, and I suppose you're out the front of that little. Behind the fucking thing.
Yeah.
It just feels, maybe it's because you're outside, but something about it feels right. And I think it's intangible sometimes. Some things
not only is it intangible, it's totally ubiquitous and absolutely unique. And that's why it's so popular.
But occasionally those sort of whimsical, we talked about, I think it's the Thrasher's French fries in Ocean City, New Jersey. Is it Maryland?
Doesn't do ketchup.
Maryland, I think it is. No, they don't do ketchup, and they only do salt and vinegar, which in America is really weird.
Yeah.
And occasionally there's that very clever thing of what in a sense, what you don't do is also a form of communication. So if we're being absolutely objective about this, what makes Waitrose posher than Tesco?
Espressos is sponsored by supply chain software gurus Unleashed. It talks to your e-com and accounting software. It's helped Islands cut admin time in half, get granular clarity on your margins, know where your stock is, don't miss availability. Brands like Candy Kittens, Tiny Rebel and Trip all use Unleashed, and so should you.